Taylor Lee, welcome to Behind the Business.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. I am keen to just unpack your business, the success you've created, and dive a little bit deeper into the stuff that people don't usually talk about on the front end that I think is so impactful to supporting other people in our space to actually grow.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So first of all, for everyone that's maybe not heard of you before, do you want to share a little bit about who you help, just a little bit about you so there's some context?
Yeah, so I work predominantly with service providers, more in like the small business phase, like 1 to 2 team members usually.
Yep.
So in terms of how I kind of got there, it wasn't necessarily intentional. So I started in social media marketing freelancing. So that's what I studied at university, did internships in uni, and then freelance pretty much whilst I was studying. That then naturally kind of progressed to then falling into why don't I just train people, because I hated still kind of working for people in freelance. I was like, I can just go in and train businesses. So that's what I did. And then naturally it kind of progressed to clients and asking me like, how did you onboard me? And like, what was this system and how do you manage this financially and whatever it might be. So that kind of is how that I progressed into this space, and obviously just like my own development in my business. So that's kind of what landed me here. I've been doing it full time for almost 4 years now, which is crazy. But yeah, just working with service providers, really focusing more on like systems, streamlining and simplifying their business more than anything. And I am really big on like a simple, small, sustainable business, especially kind of going into this next chapter of pregnancy and motherhood, which I'm sure we'll go into. So keeping like a really lean business is kind of my focus and niche, if you will. I'm all for people like scaling to like huge numbers, huge teams, but for me at this point in time, at least, that's not really the focus for me.
Focus. Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like we had a pretty similar starting point in the sense that you were quite young when you started your business. You're still young. So how old were you when you started exactly?
I was 21. So 24 now.
Yeah. So I started pretty much roughly the same time, about 22.
Yeah.
And I remember personally being super nervous, feeling like, who am I to be a coach? Who am I to help people? I'm so young. I did start in the mindset space. I'm just curious to hear, for your age, did you have any of that imposter syndrome or feelings of doubt at all of like, I'm helping people, like, I'm sure older than you, to grow their business?
I would say I probably experience like more, not even necessarily imposter syndrome, but like I do have my moments of questioning when I'm like, oh my God, you know, this person is a mum of 3 kids, or like, you know, whoever it might be that I'm supporting, where I'm like, wait, who am I? I'm just like little like 24-year-old Taylor. I probably have that more now because I'm working with more established business owners, where for what I was doing in like the social media space, it almost became something of like, well, she's young, she knows social media. So it was almost a strength in that sense. And especially like having my degree, where then kind of coming into more territory of like, you know, comprehensive business strategy, that was a bit like, wait, am I like qualified to talk about this? And I think especially in the coaching industry in particular, because there is so many people that are just like taking it for a ride, and burning a lot of people, like that's probably where more of the questioning came from for me.
Yeah. And I hear you talk about that a lot, so I can really see that your integrity and your values shine through in all of your decisions with how you support your clients and how you manage things and what you actually focus on. Like, that's one of my favorite things, is you really focus on like root cause decision making. I'm really curious because it's very like systemized and structured and organized and talking about numbers and finances. Like, where did that passion/skill set actually come from?
Definitely my dad. So I'm the 4th generation in my family to have a business. So he is very logical, like numbers, all of the things. Probably to the point, I was speaking to a client and now friend of mine, to the point that I probably used to be a little bit more delusional, like early days in business, where I wouldn't think things through and I'd kind of just like make it work.
I feel like that's a lot of people when they start.
Yeah. So I think I'm probably like a bit too calculated now. But that's definitely where it's come from, is like knowing numbers in things, and especially even coming into more like, you know, property investing and things like that. It's been really important for me and my partner to just be like super across things financially, because then you're not getting like the unexpected side of things. So I find for me that like level of control somewhat regulates my nervous system, because I'm like, nothing's too surprising. I try to control the controllables, because there's always going to be uncontrollables in business as well.
100%.
Yeah.
So you've been in business for 4 years. what would you say each year has kind of looked like for you in terms of focus and what the growth has looked like?
So year one was very much just like sending it a lot of investing, a lot of personal development. I find in like those first few years of business, it's like personal development on steroids. So it was like a lot around like mindset and things like that. And then the second year, like that first year, things grew really quickly for me. I think I had surpassed like 100K like collected in like an 8-month period for like 21. I've just started this thing, like just kind of wung it. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Years like 2 and 3 were very much like finding my feet. I definitely kind of got a bit taken out of my own lane from the industry and like the coaching industry, very much being like everything comes back to mindset, back to energetics, back to all of these things, which definitely play a part. But I got taken out of like what my zone of genius is and almost became a bit of a copycat. So then that like significantly ruined my business to a certain degree. Like I experienced
as in being too much in the mindset stage phase instead of strategy and stuff.
And almost like teaching that, because like that was the work that I needed to focus on versus like, no, the thing that you're good at is strategy, teach that. You can still work on your mindset, energetics, all of the things, but it's not what you are actually like born to like teach and support people with. Had like a massive dip in my business over like a 6-month period, I want to say, that was very like stressful. What the fuck? Like, can I even rebuild this? So the start of 2024 was huge for me, and just like coming back into my own lane, unsubscribing, didn't invest in coaches for a really long time and just had to kind of come back. And I realized like I've got my dad who has a business that's turning over 10 times what business coaches are kind of turning over in a month period. And I was like, maybe let's just like listen to him, because for the longest time I was like, no, shut up. Like, you don't know, you don't get it.
Not the same space.
Literally.
Yeah.
So just applied more business principles and really just like built from the ground up again. So 2024 was like huge in rebuilding. And then 2025 last year was like actually reaping the benefits of that, of like client results, the community really building, the podcast building. So yeah, it was like a very quick growth. And then I'll say that to clients often as well, where people are like, oh, it's harder to get off the ground. I'm like, everyone's going to experience their hard. I grew really quickly, but then I like plummeted very quickly too. So then had to rebuild from there as well. So it was a lot of rebuilding.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. Now, I know that you are over halfway through your pregnancy journey, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I know that wasn't necessarily on the cards for right now. So how are you feeling with all of that?
I actually recorded a podcast episode of like how I'm actually feeling in pregnancy the other day. I feel like no 2 days are the same, no 2 hours are the same, where it's, and obviously that's like hormones, but finding out, it was just like a huge shock, because it was like, oh, we weren't planning, we weren't trying. And as you know as well, like having a business, I'm like, oh, how is this going to run? And it's so like heavily relies on me. I have my days where I'm like, fuck, like, is business going to survive? Am I going to be okay? Like I genuinely feel like a teen pregnancy where I'm like, Taylor, people fall pregnant at this age all the time.
Yeah.
But just a lot of like navigating. And I think the biggest thing is just like actually being honest with myself. For the longest time, like I'm such a person of like, nope, I'm good. And like there's bigger problems out there. So it's been such a piece of like A, surrendering to the journey, and B, just like, how do you actually feel and what support do you actually need is what it's really taught me.
And like both can coexist. You can be nervous, scared, have your doubts, and be grateful, know that it's possible, know that it's, you know, can be normal at this age to fall pregnant, right?
Literally. So yeah, it's been just like a lot of adjusting, I would say. And then like you're going through things personally, and then in your relationship, and then you've got the business element. I think the biggest challenge has been, I think, I don't know if you relate to this as a woman in business, but like it just goes so against the traditional roles of us like providing and making money and like all of these things. And then especially
then being a mum.
Yeah, like being thrown into motherhood, where it's like, oh, like I'm the one, you know, buying the bottles and like preparing my body for labor, and I'll be breastfeeding, and this baby's going to be relying so heavily on me. And I'm so excited for that, and I want to be in that role. But then I'm like, I'm so in the business role, and it feels a bit like my partner and I have had to have some really honest conversations where it is feeling like a bit like, well, what role are we kind of playing here? Because it goes so against, I feel like, almost what we're biologically meant to do.
Yeah. Because it's one thing to fall pregnant when you don't have to carry any financial responsibilities or a business, right?
Yeah.
But it's another to manage both. Like I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's a whole bunch of role models out there of people managing to do both, which I'm sure you're leaning on so much right now. But I'm really curious, knowing that it wasn't, something you were planning in that moment. What was your business structured like, and what was your goals like? Like, how were you thinking and feeling before finding out you were pregnant versus what very quickly shifted strategically and emotionally when you actually found out that you were pregnant?
I would actually say my model hasn't really shifted too much, to be honest. So for context, for anyone listening and even for yourself, I've got my one-on-one clients, and then I have the accelerator, which is more of a group space. It's still pretty hands-on in terms of what I'm doing. Like there's still a level of one-on-one involved. But I found more than anything, it just made me have to actually rely on team and outsource in other areas. I think I've been like, okay, well, if I can't even touch the service delivery, like that's almost what I had in my head I always thought something had to be completely passive coming into this kind of season where we are more just like leaning on having like podcast batch, having like someone to actually manage my podcast, get all my content out for me, and then having my client success manager, like her actually step up, train her more, which I kind of was almost like putting off definitely unconsciously. I'm like, oh, but we're good. So it's forced me to actually just lean on people and let go of like the perfectionism and control in my business more than anything. And then really just shift my focus to focusing on the accelerator more and how I can make that a better space than, one-on-ones. And I love like my one-on-one clients. But I'm like, there is a capacity now.
Of course.
So it's kind of like forced me to push more into that more than anything. And then, looking at how we can scale in other ways.
Yeah. So is your goal still to scale further, or are you happy where you are and you're wanting to more maintain this, but adjusting that maybe more of the revenue comes from your group program versus one-on-one, or what does that look like for you? Yeah,
definitely more maintenance is like the kind of word for this year. Is I think a lot of the time in like social media and things like that, we can always just be like, it's got to be more, it's got to be more, like scale, like all the time. And it's something I constantly like still like battle with myself, because I'm like, oh, go for more, like you could go for more. And I'm like, no, the goal right now in this season is actually scaling back hours. Like that's the version of scaling, is like reduced time, giving myself more capacity and being able to then maintain client experience, revenue, all of the things. So that's kind of the goal. But then indirectly revenue has been increasing over this season, which has just been like an interesting byproduct when you remove the focus.
Yeah. How cool is that? Have you been really thinking about every time you go to do something of like, what would this look like if I had a baby here right now? Because I find myself knowing that is the season that I'll eventually want to go into. I sometimes think about like, if I was just trying to do this thing or go on this call and I had a baby here right now, what would that actually look like? Like, have you been thinking about that more in these last few months?
Honestly, not really. Like I probably should. I think that's like honestly why I'm like, probably a bit more chill about it. Like I still have my moments of anxiety of like, wait, what the fuck is this season going to be? But I think because I haven't given it too much thought, it's probably been why I'm so chill. And then I'm going to get probably a bit of a rude shock. But I think we always like have this idea, and again, that comes back to the role model thing, right? Of like people that do just get it done. Like I've seen people and they're just like breastfeeding on a call, and I'm like, true, like it's so doable. And I'm so lucky in the sense that I've got so much family support around me, and I'm like, oh, it's so doable to like have 1 to 2 days of intentional work for a few hours, have that support, and like you're good kind of thing. So I think in my head coming into this, I would have thought it would have been so much more of a change, where I think especially in the newborn phase, like they're kind of just snoozing, like they're really just like, I'm like, okay, cool, like we could be recording a podcast right now, baby could be asleep in a lounger, but you think it's going to be more complex than that. And of course I'm sure mums are probably listening to this like, you have no fucking idea.
Obviously I think it depends on all sorts of days, situations, babies, all
totally
things,
but no, I actually haven't really given it too much thought. Definitely when I have like a long shower, like an everything shower, I'm like, so true, like where's the baby going to be? But my partner and I, like we've got a good dynamic in the sense of he'll be able to be home a lot more and have flexibility and things like that. So I think it comes back to that role thing I was saying at the start of like not then thinking it's, because I'm like, we don't have the normal dynamic, if you will, of like him providing. So like he does cook, he does clean, he does support me. So it's like he kind of almost has to, because we very much see it like a team thing versus like I'm responsible for Bub like most of the time.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, well, it's just as much his child as it is mine. So, and his also wants that, like, and to be there and support me and the baby as well.
Yeah. And maternity leave. I know when you're a business owner, that's not really a thing. Like, we have to sort of create that ourselves. What does that look like for you?
So one thing that I was surprised by, like for anyone in Australia, is like your government like payment from like paid parental leave. So it's around about a $20,000 payment, which...
Even when you're a business owner?
Yeah.
That really surprised me.
Honestly, same. I was like, oh, I'm so surprised by this.
But there's a catch. There's got to be a catch.
There's honestly not. So like I've gone through like the application process. So it's some people that are like working in a job that might have paid parental leave a part of like their actual like package at a business, then also get the government like paid parental leave. So I'm so jealous watching people on TikTok that are like, you know, they've got 12 months off, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was speaking to, who was I speaking to? I was speaking to a friend the other day who is quite heavily pregnant, and she has managed to find a way to get over 12 months leave. I'm like, because I think she's taking half pay or that. So it's like dragging out as well. I'm like, wow, that's actually sick.
Yeah, it's crazy. So when you've got like a company, from what my accountant said, the government will kind of decide if that they like pay you as an individual and you're not getting, like you're not working and getting an income from your company, or your company actually gets paid that amount. So the way I'm kind of seeing it is, it just means that I can have more wiggle room even from a cash flow perspective if I need it for team working more hours over that season, is how I'm kind of mentally seeing it. So that was like one thing that I'm like, okay, like an extra $20,000, that does take, like it alleviates a bit of stress. Plan is roughly, that's the other thing that's for a type A girl so frustrating. I'm like, so when is this baby coming? Like they could come at like 37 weeks or 42 weeks. I'm like, that's 5 weeks. So it's more just like having things locked in. We've got like babies due in May, so like May, June is pretty much like no kind of contact work from me, so everything will be batched, and I'll just be supporting clients, like responding in that sense.
So you will be still doing that?
Yeah. Not if the government's listening. I will be off. Yes. I will be entirely off work.
Yep.
But then, team will be kind of like handling a lot more, bringing in some more like guest consultants and like expert speakers and things like that. So that's kind of the plan. And then more just that Kiralee, my team members, like we're across a bit of a system of like, okay, if baby comes early, if baby comes late, like she'll just be able to manage kind of the clients and just communicating with clients as well.
Yep.
They know that's the season that I'm about to enter.
Yeah.
So it's just more like a flexible period, I would say, more than anything. And I think as well, like when I truly, and I don't know if you can relate to this too, when I think of, as much as I look, I'm like, oh, 12 months off work, like amazing. But I'm like, I do Christmas and I'm like, I'm bored after
2 weeks. Come on, let's go.
Literally, I'm like, as much as, like I'm like, can't wait for a break. But then when I'm in it, I'm like, I still love my job. And I think just having everything batched in terms of like, I'm only pretty much like showing up for calls or like group calls. That's what feels like the best. And then, having team to really manage like all of the admin and things like that. So I'm like, I think I'd lose a lot of my identity. I think it's like in such a transitional period when that like personally your identity is going through so much, stepping into motherhood. I'm like, I still want, like my business is such a piece to me that I'm like, I don't want to lose that as well in this season. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it. But TBC, we might have to do a part 2.
Of course. I just love asking these questions because everyone does go about it differently. And for some people, they go through, a really big emotional journey of like all sorts of fears. But also some people really change when they fall pregnant, of like they suddenly, I hear this a lot from my friends, like that have children now, that they got way more boundaries. They got, they were way more mindful of what they said yes and no to, because time was suddenly way more precious. Or even some people had full identity flips of what actually matters to them. And I'm just really curious if any of that has happened for you at all.
Definitely like the boundaries piece. I think like the moment that I was like pregnant, even before I like knew I was pregnant, I'm like, I could feel something like shifting.
That's
even like
fascinating. See what I mean? Like this stuff happens.
Yeah, like energetically, where it was just like, I'm just like, for lack of a better phrase, like just not tolerating shit anymore. Like whether it be with, friends, family, whether it be like in business with things as well. I'm like, I think in the past, you know, I've let people like step over my boundaries and be like, oh, that's frustrating, or like not even just saying the thing super directly, where now I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. Like I remember someone was even like, I'm just concerned about this with like, you know, you coming into pregnancy of working together. I'm like, honestly, if it's a concern, like please don't work with me.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have like time for it, like capacity if it's a concern. So valid in your concern, but like I'm not going to try and prove anything to you over this season. Like it's just going to be what it is. And if you don't want to be a part of that, perfect and fine, like go elsewhere. But I think in the past it'd be like, oh, like the people pleasing is basically just gone.
Yeah.
Like is
how
one
cool
thing.
is that though? Because people pleasing can weigh down on you so much. So if that vanishes, that's really cool.
Yeah, literally. And I wouldn't even say like if you were to ask my friends, like I'm probably the most direct one of my friends, like you know what you're going to get with Taylor, like she'll just say the thing, but like still definitely like the little parts of me that would people please.
Of course.
Sayonara. So it's been cool in that sense. I'm like, thanks for that, baby. He's like full kicking right now as well. So he's like making himself known.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, you and I are both very direct. I'm like, fuck, if two people like had to deal with us at the same time, like they would just have another thing coming.
Literally. But I also think with like clients as well, I'm like, well, you're paying me. Like, do you want me to sugarcoat it?
Do you want me to make you just like feel good, or do you want me to help you get the result? And sometimes people really need a little push. Literally. So I'm like, it's kind of my job. Yeah, no, so right. Cool, super fascinating. I was actually going to ask that if you found that clients or people started to project things or say little things like you just mentioned, but it sounds like that has happened, because I guess that would be my fear is probably not the right word, but I guess that's a thought I've had of like, what, like, would people stop working with me if I fell pregnant, or would people have an issue with that and go elsewhere just because of that alone?
No, it was such a fear for me as well. And then it was like, you know, accidentally falling pregnant or unintentionally falling pregnant, however you want to put it.
Yep.
I was like, oh, fuck. Because I just had such a story that like, yeah, people wouldn't want to invest with me. And I think it was such a projection of my own of like where I would look at people in the past and be like, well, you're not going to be as present to support me as a client, or like insert the thing. So I'm like, I can get it when people have that experience or that projection, but it has genuinely been the most opposite experience. Like, yes, I've had that one kind of conversation. She still ended up signing as a client. Really? It was a great client. She's like, no. Like, I'm like, okay. Like, but I'm making that clear. So at least like I felt better coming into it versus feeling this unconscious proving. But no, like people have signed up with me because of that I'm pregnant. Like it's been the funniest thing from God, the universe, whatever, where I'm just like, oh, okay, like known. I've got a client at the moment, she's a sleep consultant, like for babies. And I'm like, it's so cool that like, I'm also getting to learn from her. I'm like, do I swaddle? And like, what swaddles do I buy? And how do I, like, do I sleep train? So like, I'm learning so much from her on calls. But yeah, I'm like, me coming into this season's actually been more expansive for people, which I really thought would be the opposite, to be honest.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, even before you fell pregnant and that wasn't a part of your messaging at all, like what you actually help people with the systems, the structure, all of that sort of thing is very, very essential. Well, for any business owner, obviously, but in particular, if you are low on time and you're juggling, you know, both motherhood and business, like those systems and structures is going to be like quite essential. And so I can see how it just makes so much sense for you to add in that messaging now that you are literally about to become a mum, that's very much a part of your, you know, you're just adding that into enhancing why this is so important, and you're showcasing that in real time. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's so funny because I always had the thing as well of like, oh, like, please, like, fucking call me out on it if I'm that person that becomes like, you know, motherhood and pregnancy, like, and that being like all of my content, because I used to look at it and be like, oh, like almost roll my eyes, and I'm like, so funny like that I'm now that, but I'm like, it's just so,
you just don't care.
Yeah, and it just becomes like your life and your reality, and like what the conversations that you're then naturally having and the people that you start like bringing into your life, it just becomes that kind of chapter. But yeah, I'm so glad that, yeah, whether people want to have babies or like whatever it might be, I'm like, exactly like you said, just having the systems, the structure, to even just like enjoy the spaciousness while you have it as well, I think is so, like, if it's someone like yourself that's like, that's going to be on the cards for us in like the next year, the next couple of years, like to actually enjoy the spaciousness and like the opportunities that can create as well before you go into such a crazy season.
100%. It's so funny because do you know Sarah's Day?
Yeah.
I don't follow her super closely anymore, but I do remember when she, you know, became a mum and, you know, a lot of her content started to move towards like her and her kids and all of that. I remember she just would get so much hate of like, oh, you just only talk about motherhood. That's all you care about. It's like, dude, like she's got 3 kids. Like, of course she's talking about it. I just find it so interesting, like the projections or like the comments people have to say. And I'm like, of course, when like, you know, you grow up or, you know, things change in your life that you're, you know, you evolve what you're passionate about and what you talk about. So yeah, I just find it so interesting, like the thoughts, the feelings, the conclusions people jump to, or the issues people have around it when you change, right? Because it's like she obviously was talking about health and fitness for so many years, then became a mum, added so much of that, and then like there were just so many people that were like not cool with the change, but it's like, of course she's changing.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's funny because I never used to consume like any of her content. I was like, I don't really get the hype. Like that was honestly where I sat. But like now coming into motherhood, and yeah, me and my friend the other day were like sat like making our list of like all the things to purchase for our babies, watching her vlogs. And I'm like, I feel like so much more like I can relate to her. Yeah. So I'm like, it's interesting being on the other side. Then you apply it to business. So you can see where some people will probably be like, no, Taylor's not for me anymore, like being in that chapter. But then other people are like, oh my God,
yeah, she's
finally.
really for me.
Yeah.
I'm choosing, like, I'm so mindful of like the projections people put on women and that we put on ourselves and whatever, you know, during this season, right? And so I know I'm not pregnant right now, so like I can't actually speak into it, but I'm just like so determined that when that is my chapter to like not tell myself stories that you can't have both, that both's not possible, and all of these sorts of things, because that's been a total fear of mine. I'm like, I don't know how people do that. And I'm just like determined to find a way that like you can do both and you can have it all. Like, I guess she's an example. She would make millions and millions of dollars, and she's got 3 kids and building multiple houses and all of these things. So I'm like, there is plenty of evidence that if you have the right support, the right systems, whatever it might be, that you can do it. You know?
It's so true. And that, can apply to business, even down to like, I haven't been sick once this entire pregnancy. When like you hear, like even like my mum had an awful pregnancy with me, and you constantly hear like, just wait for the morning sickness and just wait for this and just wait. Like that statement is so common, where I'm so glad I have a friend who's actually now my doula, and she has a 1-year-old. So she's, what was that like when she first got pregnant, probably 1.5 years ago? She was like, Taylor, oh my God, like the projections that come at you, and it's like, you're going to get sick. And she's like, what if I just choose to not get sick? And she had the most incredible pregnancy, home birth, all of the things. So I'm so glad that she was an expander for me, and that of just like what I choose for pregnancy, of like, I've still been able to move, I've still been fine in my business, like yes, I've had some fatigue, but like have not vomited once.
That's so
like,
cool.
It's been so good. So I think even in that, like you can actually choose. And I know people that have had not great pregnancies or whatever it might be would be like, oh, shut up listening to this. But I truly believe, and she's pregnant with her second now, and she was literally saying she was sick, and then she was like, I just chose one day, I'm not someone that gets sick in pregnancy. She's like, and I haven't been sick since.
I love
and
that.
I'm like, there's so much power in just like what you choose to make your own.
Yeah. I love that so much. All right. Moving on a little bit, what is something you are going through right now in your business that you're struggling with, or that you're navigating, or it can even be a positive that you're like, what's different right now? What's going on presently?
I would say probably more than anything, it's like tied into more like the personal side of things, that business is then a byproduct, in the sense of that like whole providing thing, I would say is like a huge challenge that I'm like personally navigating through, where like as much as I can consciously be like, no, I want to make more and I'm good to provide, I can feel the part of me that will then like unconsciously self-sabotage or think that I can't have it all, or insert the thing, where then that's playing out in business. So to the point that like someone could inquire, but like a DM will sit there for like a day. I don't let DM sit there for a day. Like someone wants to work with me, but I'm like noticing those little patterns where I like unconsciously, it feels very much of like, but you know, Isaac can provide, and like this is the role. Like I can see where that's like more a contrast for me that I'm really having to navigate through, which is then impacting business. So that's like a perfect example of like the mindset side of things, but then also looking at, okay, well, your capacity might just be limited right now, and like not wanting to be handling, you know, sales conversations. Can that be outsourced? Can that be delegated? So yeah, it's just like that kind of tug of war, if you will, that I'm kind of navigating.
Yeah, I love that. So, but you both financially contribute.
Yeah.
Is what's coming up for you right now around that shifting when you become a mum a little bit? Or?
I think it's more like the energy of like I'm financially contributing, like we pretty much financially contribute around about the same. Obviously I've got like my business, which allows us even more ability, but when we're kind of looking at what we get in our pay slip, it's pretty much the same every week.
Yep.
And then I think it's more the thing of like emotionally and mentally holding so much more is where like almost the resentment kind of builds, if you will, of like, okay, well, literally that I'm like, that whole nursery, like I've ordered everything, I'm doing all of the collabs for everything.
And financially providing.
Literally. So I'm just like, so what are you up to? And like my partner, like we've had so many good open conversations, but I think it's just that where like the little things that you can almost get by with and move on with without having like a baby, I'm finding is like, now I'm like, oh, this is really at the surface and it's like here, like we can't just like continue on. So just like it's a piece for me of just really asking for like, here's what I actually need, and I need you to like actually fucking do it and not me follow up, because you're not actually taking any capacity off my plate. So I'm like, did you do that thing? Oh fuck, like sorry I forgot. I'm like,
that's not gonna go well when
literally.
But good on you for like noticing that now and having those conversations now, because when the baby is actually there, that's where people can, you know, snap more or whatever, because you've got like, you're tired, emotional, you know, even busier potentially, right? All these things. So it's so good you guys are having these conversations now about like, okay, like we're going to have to communicate like super well so that when you guys do have your baby arrive, like, you know, you're able to feel really, really supported, because you'll absolutely need that, right?
Yeah. And I think as well, like even as we're saying this out loud, I'm like, I think it's so funny, like money always cops the thing. It's like, oh, it's a financial thing, but when you like still go there, it's like that's just the highlight, that's the thing that really like highlights it of like how that you feel. But I'm like, it's actually that I can't ask for my needs and I can't like actually receive support. So it's like probably more that, but then it's like it just highlighted in money in the sense of, okay, well then I'm like not, you know, pursuing certain sales or like whatever it might be. I don't have a revenue target or insert the thing, but it's because of all of the unconscious things, and that's
got to come up now, because you're going to lean on your team even more so as well. So like learning how to receive, how to ask, how to raise the bar in different areas is going to be quite essential. Like I think we can get away with doing it all ourselves or whatever that might be earlier on in our business, but when our capacity grows, that we've got more, like not even necessarily to do with a baby, like even just got more clients, more growth, like, you know, your business has been really growing, in order to keep growing it or sustain it or have that spaciousness at the same time, you do need more support, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think, the hyper independence in me is being so challenged. And just like, and pregnancy just like really highlights it, where it's down to like, I was staying at my in-laws' place while my partner was away, and like, I was like, oh, I'm feeling really nauseous. And she just like comes into my room with like Vegemite toast and like a kombucha drink. And I'm like, oh my God, like this feels so uncomfortable for me to receive.
Just receive without owing someone or having to do something back.
Yeah. So it's just interesting of like, how much that'll translate to business of like where I just really limit myself in receiving as well. Cause I'm like, oh, I feel like then I've got to like overly provide and prove and like insert the thing.
Yeah. I'm sure she's so excited though to look after you, knowing that like she's about to become a grandmother because of you and everything like that as well.
Yeah. And I think that's what people have said to me. They're like, Taylor, people like want to support you and like don't actually like, and I'm like, I'm the same. I'm like, I love like giving gifts and supporting people. And I'm like, it's just so interesting where I think I owe them something in return, and business probably doesn't help in that, right? Like everything's like some kind of transaction versus like, someone just like actually wanting to support and provide. And you're like, oh, true.
I've gone through that as well. It's super hard. Like whenever someone does something nice to me, I'm like, what nice thing can I do for you now? It's like, oh, it defeats the purpose.
Literally. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to have to like keep a tab of that one to like get them back. And it's like, oh my God.
Oh man. Well, that's awesome. Is there anything you feel like we haven't covered that you want to speak into that's coming up for you that would be helpful for other coaches or service providers listening? Like we've spoken a bit about systems. We've spoken about motherhood, all of these things. Anything else that's coming up for you?
Nothing's like coming like to mind right away, but that could also just be because my brain is a lot slower nowadays.
We covered a little bit around mindset as well. boundaries, all that stuff. I feel like we've covered.
I think like the main, like more like a message for people, especially if you're listening to this, especially if you've like clicked on, because it's like, yeah, maybe a conversation around motherhood or systems and things like that. I think the biggest thing, which I'm sure like you teach as well in your business with your clients, but just like actually building a business that's a business that you want to build. And I think like in this season, it's highlighted that to me more than ever. I think it's really easy to get caught in, you know, well, how's Taylor doing things and how's this person doing things, and trying to almost like copy and paste someone else's approach. But I think you never know the ins and outs. So my revenue might be sitting significantly lower than another business's, but I might have way higher profit that I'm taking home. Or
way more spaciousness. You might actually be happier. Like all these things that people don't see or know matters. Because like two people making, let's just say $1 million a year, like that does not mean they're the same.
Yeah.
You know, like one could have such a low profit margin, one could have such a high profit margin, one could have a clear calendar and one could not, you know. Exactly. All those things matter. So I love that you said that, because that's something big that I speak about. It's like, guys, there's not just one way to grow a business.
Yeah.
Like, you know, or even there's not one right way to go about motherhood, right? It's like your life, your rules, you get to create it exactly the way you want. So it's really interesting to hear actually that there hasn't been too much that you have changed or felt called to change with how your business was prior to falling pregnant. I think that's kind of cool actually.
Yeah. And like obviously, it's just more implementing more systems and things like that, but, or like as we need. But yeah, I think it's because I've always still unconsciously had the thing of like, hey, well, what am I working towards with this business, and always coming back into the why. So it hasn't really been to, and I've spoken to so many people that have scaled like, you know, massive agencies and all of the things, and then they end up kind of just going, fuck that, sell, exit, whatever it might be, and kind of go back into like smaller consulting. I'm like, okay, well, do I need to kind of go through
all of that just
to like kind of learn the same lesson? So I think that's what's been like the most beneficial for me in this season. It's like, that was never the goal for me. And I also don't want that to be a thing of like, that's the way kind of thing. Because I also think there's some people that I'm like, you were just built to absolutely fucking kill it, send it, like have massive team, all of the things. But I think that's been so beneficial, is just coming back into like, what do I want? What's the purpose of why I'm doing this? Because yeah, if you kind of just make your whole purpose just around how much money you're going to make, you lose yourself. You like, I've been through the thing of like, compromising like my health as a result, like just to go for this target, which is all just like so ego led.
Yeah. What, you're a very like ambitious, goal driven person though. I am curious, was that a hard thing? Because I personally think I'm very like that. I feel like it would be super scary for me to be like, I'm actually just happy staying where I am. Like I'm super happy where I am right now. And I still think that would be really scary to be like, I'm actually okay, just like somewhat cruising around here, rather than chasing that next goal. Like, was that hard, or have you actually not always been like more kind of thing?
I think I more just had to shift like more in another area, like to work like towards and progress towards something. Because I think as humans, like that's what also gives us purpose. So I think even just shifting into like more, okay, we want to build like more of our property portfolio and build wealth long term. So using business as more of a vehicle to support that has been supportive. So like now I'm looking at, okay, our net worth, how are we getting another property? How are we using the equity? Like it's more ambition in that sense versus
diversifying and expanding in other ways rather than just like continuously growing your business.
Yeah, because that's like, and then especially now we've kind of gone through the whole property thing. It's been like 8 months now, and we've seen like a $250,000 return in growth. So I kind of look at what would be required in business to get that kind of growth. And I'm like, okay, like, like business, how can I just utilize my business in like fulfillment, you know, provide financial stability, but then build in other areas, even coming back into like my health, obviously got pregnant, but like, you know, coming back into boxing, like I really wanted to like go and do a boxing fight, which I might do postpartum, but like just progressing in other areas. I think we put too much into business, and then like I just found I'd introduce myself to someone and I had no identity outside of business. So I think that was like something for me of like, you know, and we're building, you know, our property portfolio, even down to like when I think of, okay, if I was to be interviewed on a podcast not long ago, I feel like I wouldn't really have anything to bring around like me, my life experience outside of just what I'd done in business, which like was getting to a point of like, like so much is weighing on this business as my identity.
I love that. So you've got a lot more hobbies now and things that you do outside. Do you find it difficult to switch off?
Definitely. But I think having more like rituals to switch off, like I know especially when I was boxing so much more consistently, that was like my afternoon thing. So I had to be done work by that time. And I also just found that I just fucked around, to be like completely honest, of like loving the identity of like working all the time and hustle and all of these things. It's like I had a calendar where I very well could have spaciousness, but then I'd make a 15-minute task go for an hour and then that would compound. So I think having like almost forced things to switch off. And I'm pretty boundaried with weekends as well, of like, this is time for me and my partner, and like I'm better in business when I actually have time off as well.
I love that so much. That is so cool. Very inspiring for people. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and just being so open and vulnerable. I think that's really what is so valuable. Like whenever people just are quite surface level with what's going on for them, or, you know, all that sort of thing, it's less helpful. So really appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Yay.